Hola, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos a los encuentros TCM Zinemaldia.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the TCM meetings. We can't see any films here, but we have the opportunity to talk about them. And today we are going to talk about different films, one coming from Russia, two coming from France, and one coming from Argentina, a documentary film. And I would like to invite you to welcome all the crews with a warm applause.
¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much for coming.
Nuestra primera película de hoy
Our first film of today is a Russian production presented in the section Pearls. It's called Loveless in English. It's going to be presented in the theaters in Spain, and it is a film of Andrei Zinemaldia, who is very well known for his last film, for Leviathan. And the both main actresses of the film are with us today too. Sorry, the actress and the actor. They play a couple that is about to break up, and you have already worked with him, but for you it is your first film, isn't it? This is the third one. Okay, I would like you to talk about the director as a performance director. How is he doing working with you?
Звягинцев, как режиссер, очень требовательный в первую очередь к самому себе и к тому материалу, к той идее, к той задумке, которую он собирается воплотить.
Звягинцев es un director muy estricto.
Zvintsev is a very strict director. He is very strict towards himself, first of all, and with the idea that he wants to transmit too.
Он готовится к началам съемочного периода и очень хорошо знает, во всяком случае, чего бы ему не хотелось видеть от актеров. Вот. А с точки зрения уже работы с актерами, он невероятно тонкий, чуткий человек, режиссер. Ну, с ним очень удобно, с ним очень комфортно работать актером.
He prepares for the shooting in every single detail, and he knows perfectly well what he doesn't want to reflect on the film, what he doesn't want to see there. So in order to work with him as a director, we performers feel at ease. It's very comfortable to work with him because he is a very sensitive person. It's very easy to get along with him.
Mariana, ¿cómo ha sido tu experiencia?
Mariana, how was your experience? My experience about what? Working with Zinemaldia.
Это очень интересно, потому что в нашем кинематографе, к сожалению, не все режиссеры имеют возможность репетировать перед тем, как снимать. И поэтому в случае работы с Андреем Петровичем у нас была возможность репетировать перед съемкой несколько раз. Было много дублей, и были варианты, и не было спешки. Поэтому это было очень интересно.
It's been a very interesting experience. Not every film director has the possibility of rehearsing with us before the film, and we did have that opportunity. We could rehearse with him before, and we did a lot of takes. So it was very interesting, and it was a good experience. So the film talks about a married couple who are about to separate, and suddenly the child disappears. It is a film about the lack of love and tragedy. Let's see the clip.
Тебе-то что? Это квартиру смотреть. Вещи прибери свои.
Вы что, продаете?
Разводимся. Ушел уже отсюда!
нахуй! Что ты здесь трешься? Ведь все уже, все!
Да я такое же право имею, как ты!
Да имеешь, ты имеешь, свое так и так получишь! Езжай, это сколько можно!
La película, como veíamos en este
As
pequeño
we
avance,
could
tiene
see in
algunas
this
escenas
short
realmente
clip,
duras. En
the
estos
film
ensayos
has
que
some
citabas,
very hot moments. In those
tuvisteis,
rehearsals that
imagino
you
que
mentioned,
profundizar mucho en el
did you
personaje,
have
pero
the
aportar
opportunity
quizás algunas experiencias vuestras?
to put
Yo
some
tengo la
of your
sensación de
personal
que
experience
profundizar
into
en
the
estos
character?
personajes
Because I
tan
have the
duros
feeling
ha debido de ser, por otra
that
parte,
getting
una
deeper in
experiencia casi
such
personalmente
hard
difícil, ¿no?
characters must be very difficult.
В фильме у вас достаточно много таких жестких, сложных моментов. Вы говорите о том, что у вас были репетиции, которые вам, скорее всего, позволили как-то глубже исследовать ваш персонаж и, возможно, что-то добавить сюда из личного опыта, из личных переживаний, что, скорее всего, работа над такими сложными персонажами должна быть достаточно тяжелой персонально.
Ну, конечно, мы всегда, артисты всегда пытаются искать что-то от себя в персонаже, как-то добавлять какой-то своей органики, и невозможно совсем себя исключить из образа, ты все равно являешься этим человеком. Но если говорить вот конкретно об этой сцене, которая была сейчас на экране, то ее как раз мы больше всего репетировали, потому что эта сцена была на пробах к фильму. И мы вот с Лешей не пробовали ее, мы встречались с другими артистами на пробах, но уже к моменту съемок она уже настолько была в крови, эта сцена, мы уже полгода ее репетировали, и поэтому она уже стала такой родной, уже своей такой.
Bueno, por supuesto, un artista.
Of course, an artist cannot exclude himself or herself completely from the character they're playing. Every artist looks inside for their organic experiences to put them into the character. The scene that we just saw, it's a very hard one, and this is one of the scenes that we most rehearse. This particular scene was rehearsed once and over again. And it was the casting scene. And we didn't play it together. We rehearsed it with other partners, and that's why we spent half a year rehearsing this scene. And when we met each other and started shooting, we knew it by heart.
Estoy muy de acuerdo con lo que dice
I agree with my colleague Mariana. I don't need to add anything else. In some interviews, Zinemaldia has mentioned Ingmar Bergman as a reference for this film. I don't know if you were affected by or influenced by this reference too, if you took inspiration from his films.
В каком-то моменте вдохновился фильмом Бергмана «Сцены из супружеской жизни». Возможно, он рекомендовал вам этот фильм к просмотру, или как вы думаете?
Он не рекомендовал нам его к просмотру, ну, по крайней мере, на том моменте, пока мы готовились. Но, да, просто подразумевалось, что мы его видели. Потому что это один из таких вообще важнейших, наверное, фильмов, по крайней мере. Есть известный, знаменитый такой список фильмов Андрея Звягинцева. Этот фильм там занимает свое место. Да, наверное, но мы не пытались копировать этот фильм. Нет, наверное. Но, конечно, масштабность, с которой Бергман и его актеры это делают, наверное, служила нам все-таки каким-то одним из ориентиров.
Андрей Звягинцев
didn't tell us to watch his movies, but we were supposed to know his work already, and there is a list of favorite films of Andrei Zvягинцев, and Bergman is there in that list. So maybe he was influenced by him, but we didn't have the intention of copying it or doing something similar to it, but it had certainly had an influence.
Una curiosidad, la lista es la lista
A question.
del director.
The list that you mentioned is the director's list. Like, if you haven't seen those films, you can't work with him?
Если вы не видели все фильмы из этого списка, то вы просто не работаете с этим режиссером, да?
Нет, по счастью, нет.
Por suerte, no.
В этом списке, если я не ошибаюсь, это порядка 150 фильмов.
Son más o menos 150 películas, si no me equivoco.
The list includes 150 films, more or less, if I'm not wrong. And I'm sure he can mention 2 times another 150 films more.
Нет, это просто такой список, ну, время от времени публикуют. Я видел в интернете, среди интервью, списки разных режиссеров, не только Звягинцева, там, я видел списки Копполы, и там какие-то еще разных людей. Не знаю, насколько это они давали эти вещи, но Звягинцева действительно опрашивали журналисты, и он такой список составлял рекомендаций, какие фильмы, по его мнению, ну, вот, обязательны к просмотру для кругозора. Ну, как-то да, обязательны к просмотру.
No es que quizá podría también nombrar
I could mention other films, other film directors. I don't know if there are so many good films to watch, but if we talk about Zvyagintsev's list, it's an open list that is published in his interview, so you can find it in the internet. And there are similar lists by other film directors, like the Coppola's list, or, well, I don't know to what extent this film has been written by the director himself. And Zvagintsev, I suppose, modifies it regularly. But it's composed by films that he recommends watching, to keep an open mind and to have a common ground to work with him. Thank you very much for this nice dialogue, and I'm going to recognize that I'm going to admit that I was afraid of having a film in Russian, and I didn't know what questions to pose because the film is really hard, and I didn't know how you could take that word. Thank you very much for your help.
Muchísimas gracias. Bueno, pues en nuestra segunda parada de hoy es una película francesa,
is a French film that was presented yesterday in the section of new directors. It's called The Sower, and we have the film director with us, Marine Francin. It is a film inspired in a small book that the main character wrote when she was 18, explaining what happened in 1852 in her village. How did you discover this story? The starting point of the film is the moment when I found this book. Well, I didn't find it. A friend of mine who's a writer offered it to me. He also writes about similar topics, the one that is dealt with in the book. And it was my husband who actually read the book, and he was very moved by it, and he told me I had to read it because he thought that it could become a very beautiful film, and that's what I did. I read the book, and it is true that it's very short. It's like a long poem, about 20 pages, and I was really moved by the way it was written and the poetical power that the story had. More than the story or the topic was the way it was explained. Of course, the topic is very moving too, but these two things together made me take the decision. The precision about this gaze of the look of female desire and the poetic aspect of the book. It is the story of Violette, who lives in a village where all men have been taken to prison, and the village is filled with women only. Let's see the clip.
J'ai l'impression de ne pas avoir mangé depuis 3 jours.
C'est l'altitude. J'ai oublié ce que vous m'avez dit hier. Vous venez d'où exactement?
Vous avez pas oublié, je vous l'ai pas dit.
Mais vous vivez en France?
Merci. Depuis quelques mois, j'habite nulle part.
Lo que sorprende fundamentalmente de esta
It is
película
surprising in this film that it is explained in the first person. It is a proto-feminist story. It is the story of a group of women who decide to organize a female society without men. Yes, you're right. This is the story that was written at that time, but I think it could take place in any time and in any place. We could talk about any place undergoing a civil war, or even nowadays, many women felt alone or were alone and had to try and survive in a very precarious environment, and they've had to fight to survive. And I tried to show that they could move forward and keep on living without men. And so they start to ask themselves or to suspect that their men might have died, passed away. So they feel compelled to project to a very uncertain future, and they need to create or recreate new codes, new relationships among themselves, first of all, and they have a kind of apocalyptic hope, and they try to make up a fantasy in which they invent a story in which they receive the visit of a man who might help them to continue life, might help them discover love, and might help them become mothers, so that the village doesn't die away. So they are expecting the man with the sower. It is placed in the summer, and there is a beautiful part, but you didn't use the panoramic shot, but 3/4, and I don't know why, because the landscape is very beautiful, and I don't know if you did it because you wanted to center on the characters, or why is it the reason? Yes, it's a question that I'm posed very frequently. I decided to use that format because I thought that it would be surprising. It is unexpected, isn't it? And I tried to get as far away as possible from what is considered a film shot in ancient times. And this was my intention, because this changes the story, and it makes the film very classical, and I didn't want that. I wanted to highlight the topic, but in a very modern way, because the female public wants to identify and to see the problems they are having, and that's why I wanted to break with the typical films that deal with other times, with other periods. And I wanted a female to show their feelings, to show what they are feeling in their bodies. I used the bodies as a tool so that the public could identify and feel what is being shown in the images. So you are presenting your film in the new directors section, which doesn't mean that you are unexperienced. You have a long formation with short films, and you have been assistant director with very important directors. What did you learn from those masters, and what are the advantages of learning directly on the shooting with a big director, with a master? Well, the main difference is that after having this experience with, in comparison to who might be shooting a film right after school, you have already knowledge of things that don't depend directly on the scene. You have to know how to manage the crew, you have to know how to manage human relationships among the crew, which are very important too. And it's a very important responsibility for the film director. And at the same time, you have to be able to take distance towards the work, the rhythm of the work, the relationships among performers and with the crew, etc. So you have to be able to master all the different stages in the shooting. And I talked with many other film directors that shot their first film without having that inside experience. They had bad experiences. They felt violent under the pressure, under this need of managing all those different aspects. And I think the experience I had as an assistant director helped me to feel more at ease when working on the set, and to be able to cope with the pressure. And of course, I learned a lot watching them work. If you are working with such talented people as I had the opportunity to work, you learn a lot. But then, of course, I had to look for my own path. This morning I was looking on internet if the book that you got the inspiration from is published in Spain, and it is. But the name is different. I don't know if it is the sower, but I recommend everyone to read the book and to watch the film. Thank you very much for coming.
Bueno, y ahora nos vamos a Argentina.
And now we move to
Argentina,
Argentina comes to us through Manuel Abramovich, who is the director of Soldier. Soldier is a documentary film that is very attractive and original and different and curious and peculiar. It talks about the first instruction year of a soldier in the Argentinian army. How did you find the idea? Where did you find the idea? Why did you choose a new soldier in the Argentinian army as a topic, and how did you get to shoot this film? Well, I don't come upon the ideas. I mean, I don't sit down at my desk and reflect and find an idea. It is in my everyday life, in my daily activities, where I find the inspiration. I meet people and I base on those people. And the regiment where we were shooting is just in front of my house. So every day when I went out of the house, I saw through the barriers all the soldiers and the choreography of those members of the army, and I was asking myself, well, it was very, very simple. I was curious about knowing who they were, who were those soldiers that look so much alike, but obviously are different persons and young people who have a history and a past and a present. And I wanted to know who they were behind those uniforms and what brought them to the decision of joining the army. So the film is following the first year of instruction of a soldier that wants to be in the military band.
A comer la comida del cuartel. Tócalo ahora, rancho. Listo. Ahora, desayuno, merienda. Tengo que ir a tomar el desayuno o la merienda. Listo. A tomar el té. A tomar el té. ¿Cómo tengo que hacerlo con el tambor? Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. Desayuno, merienda.
Bueno, pues veamos quizás una de las partes más curiosas.
This is one of the most bizarre parts of the film. But I was drawn by the scenes that you present. It is structured as a theater. I felt that you are very interested in the representation of things, in the movement. And it is, yes, you're right, it's true. I think that reality is a huge fiction in many senses, and the army is as well. It's a kind of mise en scène. And I'm interested in that too, not only in the army, but, for example, now we are playing a role. Yes, I'm playing the moderator here and the interviewer. But I'm interested in that, and this is very easy to see in the army. How did you choose the main actor, Juan? Like me. He's called Juan, like me. How was the casting? How did you meet Juan? Did you have other candidates? Yes, it was somehow intuitive. When I started thinking about the film, I spent 2 months watching these young people, and I was just taking notes and recording sounds, but without a camera. I just wanted to understand the daily life in this regiment, and I was drafting the script, or at least a kind of structure for the documentary film I wanted to shoot later. And when we were filming, the first week there were around 50 new young soldiers who were starting instruction, and when I saw Juan, I saw a certain light of like a doubt or fear in his eyes, and so I thought he could play the role of someone who is very convinced about being there and had chosen it by himself. But in his eyes, you can feel that he's questioning that decision. He's questioning himself and has a doubt of knowing if it's going to be okay or not. You follow all the meetings in the classrooms and all the instruction. Yes, I like to work with sound a lot, so I follow the instructions of the director of photography, but when I started shooting films, I discovered that sound allows me to transmit things that don't need to be right in front of the camera in the image, and this is something I like. I usually do. I leave things out of the camera, but you can listen to them. You can feel them through the sound, and so you can imagine them the way you like as a spectator. Well, there are many films about this topic, especially in the U.S. films, in the U.S. filmography, and I wanted to know if they influenced you. Well, of course, I had them present. It is impossible not to shoot a film about the army and not have the Metal Jacket or other films similar in the topic in mind. And I was trying to focus on knowing who those young people were. Who is a person who decides to join the army in a country that is not at war, and how do they spend their day? How is the daily life and their training? What cameras did you use? What technical devices did you use? Because I suppose you wanted to, you didn't want to draw attention to you. Yes, my crew, it was 3-4 people tops, and it was myself, Sofia, who is the sound expert, and the cameraman, and someone from production. And we tried, as you said, we tried to be invisible as possible. And sometimes in other situations, they agreed to kind of act in front of the camera, not inventing anything, but starting from what they usually do every day, I ask them to repeat some things, or, for example, the clip you saw now, we shot that 3 times. The first time was the real deal, and then I asked them if they could repeat that, given them some ideas in order to have it nicer, and in other cases I cut the scene, and some scenes were 5 minutes long, and this is almost impossible. So there is a certain staging, but the characters, they are not actors, and they are not acting, but they play themselves, so to say. Thank you very much for sharing this film with us, Manuel, and for this with this focus on reality to which we don't have access every day. So thank you very much.
Bueno, pues nuestro equipo, último equipo de hoy, cuarto equipo de hoy, acaba de venir.
And the fourth team today, they just presented their film in the theater. They are coming from there. It is the Prize of Success, presented in the new directors section. You have just arrived from the cinema, from the theater, and we have Teddy Lucie Modeste, the director, with us, and Jean-Christophe Raymond, the producer. It was the premiere right now. What is your feeling? How was it received by the public?
C'est difficile en fait après les projections, on repense toujours aux questions qui ont été posées.
It is difficult to answer. It is difficult to answer to that question right away. I mean, I usually need to reflect some time, and I'm disturbed by the impression of the many people looking at the film. And of course, it's a French film, and we hope that everyone understands it, but we are always very interested in knowing how people from other countries react, and it is very interesting to see how the questions that the public pose are very different. Your film is a reflection about success, and I think it is based on a personal experience after your first film, isn't it?
Non, disons que c'est avant le premier film.
No, not really. It is before the first film.
Un peu drôle en famille. Lorsque je réussis concours.
There is a funny anecdote. I finished my cinema school, and the people from my family, they say, "Oh, cinema, you're going to become rich," because they think cinema is like or being a film director is like being a football player, and that I'm going to become rich overnight. And suddenly, my brother asked me for a very expensive watch as a present. My mother wants a Louis Vuitton purse, and that gave me the idea of showing a family that in which when someone becomes successful, they have this kind of ideas. And so I decided to work on this. On this idea of one man who is successful and who is taken advantage by the family. This is the topic of the film. It is a successful stand-up comedian from a working-class family. Let's see the clip.
Son avocat, je suis son chauffeur, je suis son garde du corps, je suis sa mère des fois.
Merci, c'est tout pour moi, c'était...
J'aimerais faire venir une personne sur scène. Quelqu'un qui compte beaucoup pour moi, qui me donne confiance, qui me met aussi des gros coups de pression des fois. Mais sans qui ce spectacle n'aurait jamais existé. Linda.
Bien.
Tu connais Mourad?
El protagonista es un cómico de origen magrebí.
The main character is a stand-up comedian from Northern Africa, from Maghreb, and I would like to know why you chose a successful man, a comedian, but who is coming from a working-class family and from an immigration background. Well, because if you pay attention to the most typical success examples, they are Arabs, they are young people from a Romanian background or from an Arabian background. So I thought it was perfectly appropriate to choose a young man coming from an immigration background and from a working class family. I would like to know what is the debt that a successful person has to pay to the environment and to the family. Although the main character is a comedian, the film is pretty serious. It's not a comedy, and I suppose you chose from the very beginning that no scene of the show, of this comedian show, appears in the film. Yes, you're right. I didn't want to shoot a comedy, and I thought the topic was serious enough to forget about the comedy. So for me, the main topic is family. Is family as an environment of protection, but also of danger and risk. And that's why I decided not to go for a real comedy, although there are very funny scenes. Humor is very important, comedy is very important, but for me it was important that the film was believable. It is important that the comedian is funny, but that he has that I can show the relationship with his brother and his sister. And there is a scene in which he is reading the criticism of a rap singer, and this scene is very important in the film. Yes, he is there, and he reads this criticism from the star rap singer who is insulting him. He calls him a Zionist, but it's only words. It's not the real problem. The real problem of successful people is not social networks or insults or criticism. The main problem is that success in a family in which there was no success before, it's like a bomb that explodes and contaminates all the relationships in the family. It took you 4 or 5 years since your last film, and I would like to know how the production process was. Well, this is the first feature film that we do together. We have been working in short films before, and the big challenge was to know how to interact with Teddy, based on the script, and how to show not only success in the film but other things. And Canal Plus was interested in the project, so we had to make it interesting for Canal Plus, and the casting was also very important, and that means we needed someone who be a very good actor and a very responsible one, but then we had to find all the members of the family, which are very important in the film, and then we needed to find financing, and so it took us some time, you're right. And then, well, it was fun, because people might think that this film is a very funny film, but as you said, the topic is somehow serious. It's a family drama, although sometimes it's a comedy, but it's a family drama, and that was another aim of the production, and that's why it took us some time. We wanted to show drama and comedy at the same time. We have seen Brahim in other films, was like the prophet. Did you go for Ibrahim from the very beginning? For Rahim, sorry. No, it was not my first choice. We were casting different people, and suddenly I saw him. We started talking about the role, about the character, but I didn't. It was not a formal proposal, and suddenly the miracle happened, and Christophe was there, and he realized it as well. We saw that, of course, that he was very successful due to the prophet, and he went to Cannes, he went to the Oscars, he had 2 Caesar prizes, so he had that experience of being successful, and I suppose he had gone through that phenomenon I wanted to talk about, of being successful in a family without any success. So he didn't talk about that openly, but in the casting I could feel that he knew what we were talking about, and so I thought the film could be a catharsis for him, and so we decided to cast him again, and then to look for the rest of the actors and actresses around him based on his character, because he is the first generation of actors being successful, and so I wanted to. I looked for the main actress, who is also from the same generation and having the same problem with success as Rahim. So it was a very long process. I didn't fall in love immediately with the main actor. So you are right, there is a resemblance between this character and the real story of the actor. Thank you very much for all the topics you approach. You have been talking about, we have been talking today about many important topics like matrimony, the army, family, success, and in this small space we always talk about very important topics. Thank you very much for coming, and see you tomorrow, hopefully.